If there's one thing that we gamers love, it's a really good baddie. And the world of video games has plenty of scumbags to keep us heartily entertained. Another thing we enjoy is a great twist. And sometimes a game will combine the two by pulling the rug out from under us and revealing that someone we thought was on the level really isn't at all. Whether they're an amiable guide who turns out to be not who they say they are, or a companion that's been corrupted by the forces of evil, our feelings of betrayal come second, only to the admiration we give these guys for cleverly pulling the wool over our eyes. For this list, we're looking at the characters in video games that lead the player to believe they're on the right side of the fight, only for us to later find out that they were the enemy all along. It should probably go without saying, but a spoiler warning is in effect from here on out. I'm the definitely not a scoundrel I promise Ashton from Triple Jump, and here are 10 video game good guys that turned out to be bad guys. Number 10, General Shepard, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. There's a great deal of speculation over what will ultimately cause World War III, but my money's on the whole pineapple on pizza debate coming to a rather violent head. For the record, I think pineapple on pizza is disgusting, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. If the future predicted by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is anything to go on, however, the whole thing will be orchestrated by one duplicitous army general. In retaliation for the deaths of 30,000 American soldiers, General Shepard takes it upon himself to engineer the circumstances that bring about World War III, pitting a fictionalised version of Russia against the rest of the world. Now don't get us wrong, Shepard's reasons for wanting revenge are pretty fair. After all, the terrorist Vladimir Makarov did set off a nuclear bomb that brought about the deaths of thousands of people, but we can't say that starting a large-scale conflict is the right way to deal with your anger. Naturally, as the commander of the United States Marine Corps, players assume initially that Shepard is a good guy, only to be utterly betrayed come the end of the game. And I bet he likes pineapple on pizza, the scumbag. Number 9, Sirius, Bomberman 64. You might not have thought that a character as cute in appearance as Bomberman 64's Sirius could be capable of backstabbing and manipulation. But if you did think that, well, you'd be wrong. This adorable little knight is first introduced to players during the 1997 Nintendo 64 title, serving as somewhat of a guide and tutor. Sirius shows the players how to control the game, and sets them off on their quest to defeat Altair, convincing him in the process that the latter has killed his family and destroyed his home planet. By his own admission, this is nothing more than a corny lie that he told to Bomberman in order to gain his allegiance so that he could use the protagonist to recover the Omni Cube from Altair. Once he's used and abused our plucky hero, he simply casts him aside and sets out on his quest to destroy Planet Bomber. Fortunately, Bomberman still has an ally in other villain Regulus, and between them they're able to destroy the Omni Cube and rid the world of Sirius's despicable ways once and for all. With Regulus proving that just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you have to be a bad guy. Number 8, Shuji Ikutsuki, Persona 3. We aren't really sure what the humble turtleneck sweater has done to the world, but for some reason it's become the instant signifier of a villain. We should probably sense there was something fishy about Persona 3's Shuji Ikutsuki from the get-go. When we first meet Shuji, he's the director of Gekkoukan High School as well as advisor to the Specialised Extracurricular Execution Squad, aka SEAS, an after-school club for Persona users. He comes across as polite and friendly, often making terrible jokes or puns, much to the chagrin of his students, but in spite of this, he's still a great source of knowledge and invaluable advice, or so we thought. It later transpires that his amiable comedic persona is a front, and the real Shuji Ikutsuki is actually a nihilistic, manipulative douche canoe whose only ambition in life is to bring about the downfall of humanity. He turns on those who have trusted him, attempting to murder them, and then when he fails, he completely snaps and yeets himself off the roof of Tartarus. Maybe think about setting smaller, more achievable goals in the future, babe. You really went right from 0 to 100 there. Number 7, Adria, Diablo 3. It's always nice to see a villain play the long game, and the Diablo series' Adria does exactly that, taking 3 whole games to finally reveal her true dastardly nature. Appearing in the first game as a merchant who sells various magical items, players are led to assume that Adria is a friendly sort of conjurer who just wants to peddle her witchy wares. She doesn't crop up again until Diablo 3, by which point she's graduated from minor NPC to being a badass sorcerer intent on vanquishing the prime evils, teaching Leah to trap their essences within the Black Soul Stone so that they may be destroyed for good. Only that isn't her plan, and instead she's actually been working against our heroes for the past 20 years so that she could eventually betray humanity and ensure the rebirth of Diablo, Lord of Terror, his power bolstered by the souls of the other primevals trapped within the Black Soul Stone. Though her efforts ultimately fail and Diablo is sent back to the fiery hells from whence he came, Adria certainly causes a whole lot of trouble for our Nephilim pals. We do have to admire her commitment to the cause though. 20 years is a long time to work in retail. No, you may not speak to the manager. Number 6. Tim. Braid. If ever there were a game that perfectly encapsulates the essence of Nice Guy Syndrome, it's Braid, a title in which it turns out our protagonist, and the very guy we've been rooting for the whole time, is in fact the baddie after all. Braid follows the story of Tim, a young man in pursuit of a princess that has allegedly been taken by a horrible, evil monster. His actual relationship with the princess is kept vague, but what we do know is that he's desperate to make amends for some mistake he made. What's worse is that she's also being chased by a knight who the player presumes is up to no good. Except plot twist, Tim is the monster, and the princess is actually trying to run away from him, presumably because he's some sort of weirdo stalker. Some theories suggest that the game's narrative is an allegory for the Manhattan Project, which was responsible for developing the world's first nuclear weapons, and that Tim's search for the princess is representative of his guilt from his involvement in the creation of the A-bomb. Regardless of whether this is the case, or he's just a bit of a creepy dude, Tim is still a character worthy of our revulsion. Number 5. Martin Walker. Spec Ops: The Line. We should have known that Spec Ops: The Line's protagonist Martin Walker didn't have a moral compass that pointed due north, at the point in which he was willing to drop white phosphorus on his enemies. Regardless of whether he thought the people he was targeting were his foes, he still basically committed a war crime. We play as Walker throughout Spec Ops: The Line, as he and his team embark on a recon mission in a sandstorm-ravaged Dubai. Being cut off from the world, the city has fallen into anarchy, and the US Army's 33rd Infantry Battalion has declared martial law and begun committing atrocities against civilians. As events become more and more morally ambiguous, Walker begins receiving communications from the 33rd's leader, Conrad, who our protagonist blames for everything that has happened. Upon finding Conrad, however, we realise that he's actually been dead the entire time, having committed suicide after he failed to evacuate the city. Walker has merely been hallucinating his existence in order to rationalise everything that's gone on, absolving himself of responsibility. No matter which ending players get, things don't turn out particularly well for Walker, which is fortunate really, as we'd hate to see such an awful bloke getting off scot-free. And number 4, Albert Wesker, Resident Evil. To be honest, the shades alone should have been a massive giveaway that something was up with Wesker. I mean, come on, just look at him. Even if he is on your side, he still needs a slap for looking like a complete poser. It's dimly lit in here. Why would he even need sunglasses? Dubious fashion choices aside, we're accompanied into the Spencer Mansion by Wesker at the beginning of the first Resident Evil game, believing him to be part of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, along with Jill, Chris, and the rest of the Alpha Team gang. Shortly after our protagonist split off to look around, however, he disappears, popping up briefly ever so often to provide supplies or useful information. We're later informed by the leader of STAR's Bravo team, Enrico Marini, that someone from Alpha is a sneaky double agent, but is shot by an unseen assailant before he can tell us who. Spoiler alert! It's Wesker! And not only has he been working for the evil Umbrella Corporation this entire time, but he's also purposefully led STARS into the Spencer Mansion so that they'll be eliminated by Hunky Boy the Tyrant. What a charming young man. Number 3, Scott Shelby, Heavy Rain. By this point, the fact that Scott Shelby is the baddie behind the origami killings in Heavy Rain is about as a well-kept secret as the fact that Darth Vader is Luke's father. With that said, the twist still came as a massive shock the first time we played it. After all, we'd been rooting for Scott the whole time, on the basis that we thought he was trying to track down the killer. After his son Sean is kidnapped by the mysterious origami killer, a serial murderer who takes the children of fathers he deems unworthy, protagonist Ethan Mars must face a series of trials if he ever hopes to see his little lad again. Meanwhile, the game also follows FBI profiler Norman Jayden, journalist Madison Page, and alleged private investigator Scott Shelby as they each try to hunt down the murderer. Only it turns out that Shelby isn't trying to find the killer at all, he is the killer, and everything he's been doing under the guise of being a PI has actually been his efforts to erase as much evidence as possible. Admittedly, his backstory is tragic, having witnessed his own brother die due to his father's apathy, but that doesn't excuse all of the heinous crimes he's been getting up to. Number 2, Atlas, BioShock. We have to admit, This one hurt. After an entire game of following the directions of friendly-sounding Irishman Atlas, it turns out that the Weasley gifts been antagonist Frank Fontaine the whole time. We initially meet Atlas at the beginning of the game following the plane crash that sets events in motion. Speaking to protagonist Jack via a shortwave radio, he alleges that he's seeking to escape Rapture but cannot do so without his wife and son, who he says are trapped in the city. As players, we follow every command Atlas gives, operating under the false assumption that he's on our side. He guides Jack through Rapture, educating him on its history, downfall, and all of the nasties that inhabit the city. We're even led to feel sorry for him as his family are blown to smithereens before our eyes, and agree to avenge them on his behalf. It's soon revealed, however, that Atlas is in fact the big bad of the whole story, having conditioned Jack to respond with compliance to the phrase "would you kindly," and that he's done this in order to overthrow Rapture's founder, Andrew Ryan, so that he can take control of the city. I tell you, I haven't trusted a random voice on the radio since. And number 1, you. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Yeah, that's right, you big dirty scoundrel. For the entirety of 2003's Knights of the Old Republic, players are led to believe that Dark Revan, one of the 2 Sith Lords that's led an invasion against the Republic, is dead. It turns out, however, that this is not the case at all, and in fact, you, the player, are Revan, albeit minus any memories that would allow you to recall the fact. Taking place the best part of 4,000 years prior to the formation of the Galactic Empire, players are flung into the shoes of an amnesiac Force user who must venture across the galaxy in order to defeat the dastardly Darth Malak. Along the way, the players ally themselves with various light-side individuals, rescue characters that are in opposition to the Sith invasion, and even train to be a Jedi Knight. So it's rather shocking when it turns out that you are the Sith Lord behind the attack. Admittedly, there is a moral alignment system that runs throughout KOTOR, so technically the player character can be a bit of a dick the entire time. But for those of you who tried to stay on the light side of the Force, it was a real gut punch to find out that you'd been behind the Sith's evil schemes all along.